Recording. Hey, welcome to Tech Talk. Today we're going to talk about classroom technology and some, I don't know, trends or news stories that's new.
Yeah, let's look into the news a little bit for some things that are trending.
Okay. What do you want to hit first? You want to hit the classroom or you want to hit the news?
Semester started. We have all of our students back on campus. Let's start in the classroom.
Okay.
I think that works out well.
Official technology? The stuff in the classroom or people that bring technology into the classroom?
Well, let's start with us.
Okay.
And then we'll go to students, you know, both those that are coming here to campus and those that are studying remote. Is that fair enough?
Okay.
Okay.
So we have chalkboards.
Boy, I went to a classroom today and did a training, and you know, the first question was make sure you know who your speaker is, where their office is, what their job is, and what they're talking about. And I picked up a piece of chalk and I wrote on the board. And I haven't done that since student teaching. It's a step back. But
Most of our people like chalkboards. And when we rebuilt this building, there was a poll of the faculty, and they'd rather have chalk than whiteboards for some reason.
It's still familiar to everybody. And you could put up a note on the board, you know, saying that assignments are due next week. And if you're teaching face-to-face, that's immediate. People still can get that. But today, you know, one of the leading tools I think that we use for communicating to our students is email. And so in at least our campus networking office, setting up everybody's email account seems to be the first thing. Also, getting them so they can log in on computers. So having a username and having a password and making sure that that's been secure and changed, that's job one.
And that's the most basic stuff there is. Inside the classroom, we've got projectors and interactive projectors, you know, kind of the smart projector or smart technology. What makes it smart? And Smart Board is a company.
I've always hated the term smart classroom.
Right.
And I think you and I both
It's just
agreed.
like saying, give me a Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand. True. Actually, you want a tissue.
If you put a bad teacher in a smart classroom, it doesn't improve the instruction at all.
Oh, no. It could really be dumb.
I think what we're talking about is instructional assisted technology. We've replaced our blackboards with a computer, oftentimes laptops or desktops built onto a podium, and being able to project something. And
sometimes I've questioned that move forward from, you know, when I started here, we had 2 TVs and 10 overhead projectors. And an overhead projector cost $300 to $400. You could do basically the same stuff then as we do with $8,000 worth of technology now. I mean, yeah, we didn't have the internet back then, but you know, you have stuff and you want to present it in front of people. It takes a laptop, a projector, a sound system, all kinds of stuff to do the same thing as we did with $300 or $400. But I understand, you know, projecting.
It's our job.
Yeah, I know. Job security. But still, you know, people have to move forward and learn how to use the technology and
keeping all of your lectures, your syllabi, your handouts, everything that you've done, either stored on a USB key on your computer, storing it in a cloud location. It's very efficient. And you know, how many times did people have ectographic slide trays and the slides would warp and they wouldn't drop down, or they got them in upside down? I suppose the same sort of thing could happen if you posted a picture into a PowerPoint and had it reversed. But
yeah, I get called to the classroom a lot more now, though. But what makes the projector smart is the 2 things: the ability to interact with the computer, because you can control the computer with either the board or a pen that's on the board. So you can control your computer like you do your mouse, which that makes the board, the chalkboard or whatever, basically a big mouse pad. And then the software that's on the computer, which you can build lessons on and interact, dragging things around on the board and making tests and quizzes and surveys, which is kind of cool to do a survey with clickers.
The clickers technology.
Yeah, that's a nice instant feedback you can have in the classroom. It's like, okay, without everybody raising their hand and looking like a big dummy, you can do it anonymously and press a little button on a thing saying, what's the answer to question 1? Everybody like polls in like a studio audience, and then the teacher can see only 50% of the people got this, which you as a student don't have the embarrassment, yeah, I was the dummy that answered wrong. But then
Or you as the instructor are stepping back and saying, I just delivered what I thought was the lecture of my career, and nobody gets it.
Right.
Either I didn't prepare them well enough for the information, or I just really bombed on being able to convey this information to my target group.
And hopefully they weren't checking Facebook on their phone while you were giving this riveting lecture.
And to be honest, Pat, who's on the soundboard today, when we were discussing our topics today, that was one of the things he asked was, what about smartphones in the classroom? And I think it's a pretty gray line between a student that may have a tablet and they're using it to take down notes, or they're on their phone and they're doing something totally outside of class.
Right.
And I, as an instructor in the front of the room, would have a hard time knowing whether they're doing something productive.
And that's where I liked setting up the computer classrooms around the edges of the wall, so I could just look around and see what they are doing.
We had at the university a Title III grant, and one of the requirements in that was that we would put in computer lab monitoring software. And back in the age, it was a mechanical type of setup with cables, a lot of cables, and it went to software so that the instructor would have a thumbnail out in front of them on their monitor of everything that their students were doing. But you could interrupt and force their screens to what you had.
Right.
And
just like the projector, you could project your image from your computer onto everyone else's computers.
And for the visually impaired, that's great. And if you take that type of technology and you're doing it in such a way that somebody could go to a website and they can get it on their own device, so that while I'm lecturing, my notes, my PowerPoint are also being projected in real time to their devices. I think there would be some benefits to that.
Right.
And if people were not in the classroom, if they're studying from home and I'm teaching a hybrid class, or I'm doing an online class and we have this sort of information that, okay, you couldn't be there today, but you can, watch the class from home. Here's our presentation, and you can hear my sound too.
Now, all this technology should make the teacher evolve. Okay, there is, the thing where you have, you can Google stuff on your phone or on your iPad or whatever mobile device during a online test where you're not proctored. You can maybe possibly Google something in the back of the classroom with your phone, find out the answer to a test. This should push the instructor to make questions a little bit, not harder, but should evolve the questions to become something else rather than define.
Require thinking.
Right.
Not
putting the information
yeah.
together. So it's just not, so you just can't Google it.
Sure.
That's the answer, put it down. So teachers should evolve in that direction because it's going to be everywhere. It used to be, we still do have technology with Blackboard that will block your browser from searching So you can't just go flip over to your browser, Google it, go back to Blackboard, put in the answer to the question, and flip back and forth. But now we've got phones. That to me makes that useless because we have several devices we can Google on. What's the point? I think the teachers need to ask better questions so that Googling, doesn't work.
Okay. Well, let's break that down into two different levels. On the technology side, in our testing center and locations on campus, yes, we have lockdown browsers so that while you're engaged, you are not allowed to take your computer and take it to a different screen. Then we have cameras, and they're actually above you. So it's watching what you're doing. And hopefully that would prevent you from taking your phone and pulling it out where you can see it.
Right, but they're all online testing.
Sure.
And you're not necessarily going to be at a testing center where you're proctored with cameras and stuff. You might be at home, you could be in the classroom, on the side of the classroom where the teacher can't see. So still you have to evolve with the technology and ask better questions.
And I think I'll defer.
And maybe a project
I'll
for
defer
me.
to our faculty on how they will be teaching differently so that they're just not asking for answers, but whether or not the student has assimilated the knowledge and can apply it.
Right. For me, a project-based learning environment's the best.
Okay. Yeah.
Show me a product. You can't Google a product. You got to make that.
No arguments with me there.
Yeah.
But we've just gone through a large project together, auditing all the classrooms, looking at those that do not have equipment, and I think we're about ready to launch on some of those installations, and getting it so that as an instructor or a guest group coming into our campus, we'll have those facilities across most of those locations.
It's becoming a standard thing. It's a standard thing in all the elementary and the high schools. Should be standard here too.
I went home to my hometown and went back into my old church. And I remember the church as I grew up in it. And they have a screen. They have the
instead of the hymnal,
the music,
then you sing along.
You sing along, and
it's like karaoke at church.
Mitch Miller with with the bouncing ball. But that's how they have enjoyed technology. They've brought it into that environment, and yes, we have it. Yes, we have it everywhere. It doesn't bother me. I think the part that we have to watch out for overall from our campus standpoint is whether or not we can keep pace with knowing how long the equipment will last, when it will break down, and you and I know as well as anybody from a staffing standpoint, when somebody needs your help because they're just having a moment, whether or not we can be everywhere in all places at once to help them out. And that's a challenge for us, but they're not smart classrooms.
Yeah, if I'd say interactive technology, where the technology helps you interact with the students and where the students can interact with the technology, maybe an interactive classroom.
So we have some instructors now that are coming in and teaching in the classroom. Some of those classes are split partially so that the work is being done online, so that somebody would be at home and they would be studying on their own and following the assignments, doing the work, interacting with the professor through chats and emails.
Now, would you call that the flipped classroom, where the instructor is not giving the information, he is only guiding the students on their search of the information?
Partially, and I'll say a flipped classroom is where you expect them to have the reading done ahead of time, and then you're applying it in your classroom.
Right.
And instead of going in there and lecturing to them, and then
they pick that up somewhere else, and they come in prepared.
Come in prepared with that, and
I kind of like that idea.
Oh.
But then when half the class doesn't do it, it puts the brakes on the whole thing.
Sure. Let's change subjects.
Well, and using there's a lot of schools that say you can't use your phone in the class. Here, I'm not sure about the high schools. We make an exception for that for emergency situations because we have messaging, for, weather alerts. Today we've got a level 1, we haven't canceled classes or anything like that. But for emergency situations, tornadoes, fires, active shooter situations, we kind of think that they're going to have their phone in the classroom. There's other classrooms where people say, okay, put them away, lay them down or something.
Okay, so we're both sitting here in front of a camera. We both have phones, and we've turned off.
I'm using mine as a timer to time this.
We've turned it off, and I feel the vibration come on, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got 30 minutes of airtime here. I don't need to look at that. I know the camera's flipped to you. Mm-hmm. Do I peek at my phone? And in a classroom, we don't want everybody's phones going off, but in an emergency situation, if everybody's pockets vibrated at the exact same time, would we know to look at our phones?
Yeah.
And would somebody sort of break the protocol?
Oh, somebody's going to.
So I'm hoping that if there are no incidents for our campus
Right.
and others, but I think that's the fine line. That if everybody's shown the courtesy to mute their phones, that if something's happening, maybe somebody takes a peek at it.
Now, there was another question we talked about earlier is, why is technology so addictive? Or not necessarily technology, but...
Dopamine.
Right. Why are we always looking at our phones during dinner? Hopefully not at the movies and dates and all that kind of thing, but people are addicted. They're looking at the screen, and it's sad. I watched a U2 concert, and everybody within 50 foot of the stage are holding up their phones and taping it. It's like, can't you just put that down for a second? This is being videotaped. Just be present in the moment.
You film weddings.
That's why I'm there, so you don't have to worry about it. Right? You can put down your phone so I can do my job.
I don't have a good handle on the human condition, and I think maybe we should invite some of our faculty from the second floor to come down and talk about what makes that addictive.
Okay. Dopamine is a pleasure response.
Okay.
Okay. And it was likened to, for me, maybe the Cracker Jack prize or the prize you find in your cereal. Just those little payoffs that you go, yeah, that's cool, So it's, like a little prize that you might get, when you're looking at Facebook, you're not looking at Facebook for particular information. You go to a website to find, a fact about something. I have a question, so I'm going to go look for it. When you're looking at Facebook, you're just looking at random stuff in hopes of coming across that little prize. And when you come across those little prizes, whether it's something in the news like, somebody died or somebody got engaged, or look at the little baby picture, or, puppy pictures like I have, and oh, isn't that cool? So it's that little bit of a rush that you get when you find a little piece of information.
Okay, we're out to dinner, and our wives get up and they go to powder their noses. Mm-hmm.
Why are your noses so powdered?
Do we carry on a conversation, or do we pick up our device just to see if something's happened in that split second?
Right.
That is more important than our social, getting together. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the root of it. Now, if you're on call and it's your business device, and you're trying to be responsible to your employer, or you're waiting for something, you're doing a timely response, that's something different. Mm-hmm. But just because you're not right there with your companion at the time, doesn't mean that when they leave, you have to look at your device. You could be free with your thoughts about thinking about other things.
Yeah. Hopefully just not checking out the other chicks in the restaurant.
Yeah. So we're gonna flip this, the discussion.
Okay.
Last week, Bossard Public Library from Gallipolis, Dr. Samuel Bossard Library, came out to campus and signed up our students for their library cards. And the hope is that now that they have ebooks, that using the Overdrive application, that they can download good reading materials. And so I was sitting with Tim Snow, our reference librarian today, and I said, so when are we going to be able to see Ohio Link, the State of Ohio Library, turn towards that electronic book sharing so that we're not using the courier service to bring hard copy books?
So you can download it like on your Kindle or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's another move towards using technology effectively.
Well, and I don't know if people realize, which I realized this back when I was 16 years old, a college library is not the same thing as your public library. There's things that you can find out at the public library. They cover all kinds of things. They got for me, they got the Chilton's manuals and all the car books and things for, if I want to learn about cigars or whatever your interest is, they probably have it. But a college library has books that are supporting the instruction of that institution. So like here we've got stuff on education, on nursing, biology, English literature, and those things. You're not going to find how to fix your 1969 VW Bug.
But
So
I just thought it was interesting that 20 plus years ago, the Rio Grande Community College received a connection to the internet so that our online public access catalogs could be shared among institutions. And so that we could go and look up some digital information, but it was mainly so that you could look at the resources and assets at another library and then have them physically shipped here. And we're almost to that point now where we're getting more things online.
or digitized.
Yeah, I mean, and the digital assets and the databases that we have, whether it's Elsevier and others, they're tremendous. But I think that's the next stage, is when all of that content that an instructor would be using and putting into their Blackboard course, and then us being able to find other information that leaves that and goes to that.
And then that also, I don't know if that puts a hurt on the textbook people. If now you can
They will find a way
trade
to
things. Oh, I'm sure they'll find a way. But I'm saying you wouldn't have to go out and, for your class buy 50 different copies of the same book. They would just be able to go to a library and download it.
I always thought that if I had a solar cell that could, charge my digital devices, that there's enough books that are in the Gutenberg Free Press and the other classics that I could probably live the rest of my life and in literature,
Oh,
catch up on everything that I never read as a child.
Yeah, no problem, I don't think.
That in the news. I read an awful lot of news every day. I pick that up, and I looked up the tech news,
Okay.
for today.
So what do we have?
Well, one of the lead stories was how bad people pick passwords.
Oh, right.
Horrible passwords, and
Or they don't change it on their router or whatever.
change your passwords. It's like a toothbrush. You don't share your passwords with anybody else, and you change them every 6 months.
It's more dangerous than using somebody else's toothbrush.
Yeah.
So what are some of the bad passwords?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Zero,
Password.
zero.
Baseball, football, your children's names.
Something you could Google. If you could Google it about the person, don't do that.
No. And we always have upper, lowercase. We have numbers, and we tell people, put a symbol in ours. And we discussed earlier today that there are some banking and financial institutions that don't allow the real secure, symbols to be added into their passwords. And
Like exclamation point, ampersand, @, whatever.
pound sign, yeah, like that. Other things that were in the news, I think people noticed that Twitter went down the other day. Things break. It's a really.
How long was it down?
I don't know. I wasn't checking my Twitter account all day,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was all that long. And those of us that
I can see people in the coffee shops just going, "What the?"
oh,
just pounding away. It's like, "What's wrong?
what
I can't get my Twitter."
what a shame! What a shame!
Drink your coffee.
There were a lot of stories about the Consumer Electronics Show that was out in Las Vegas, and the trends. The trends. Having your Internet of Things, your devices connected to the Internet, so that they're always, talking back to you. They have printers now that will order their refill cartridges, order supplies for you. And
Hopefully, you got the money in the bank.
Well,
these things just don't go ordering willy-nilly without me knowing about it.
you can always imagine where that's going to go next. And I think we've seen the car ads where the kids are sitting in the back seat and they're watching a movie. Phones, the cell service is going to be built into cars. So I don't know if...
I don't know if that's... why don't we just play slug bug like we used to?
I spy a cow.
Right. I was raised in the back of a 1973 Dodge station wagon with a rear-facing seat, so we'd look at license plates and all kinds of stuff.
Well, we'd make faces at the cars as they were coming.
Yeah. Punk kids in the back of a car.
Well, in a show of how things have changed, New York City and other cities used to have phone booths all over the place. Mm-hmm. And today, here on our campus, we don't have a phone, any public phones.
Right. You don't put quarters in.
And so what they've done in New York City is that they're taking those and they're making them into Wi-Fi hotspots. Because they own that little real estate there on the sidewalk, and they've got a pole and electricity and,
now, is
and
that
a wire.
Well, I guess that would be Wi-Fi. You wouldn't have to have any particular service.
Well, I think
would that be? Could you roam the whole city and get on the same Wi-Fi then?
I do not know the details of that,
Okay.
but I just think it was kind of neat that they want to make access to the internet a ubiquitous type of service. That we need it. We feel like we should have access to it all the time. So, what better way to already have that physical structure in place, where all those phone lines were already put in before. I mean, there are many things on the news. I don't think we can ever shy away from being astounded on stuff.
Oh no, there's always something new happening. All right, so that will do it for January's edition, January 2016, because this is going to live forever on YouTube. So someday we're going to look like we're talking about horse and carriages, but
So for Groundhog's Day, do we just redo the first part of this show over again?
yeah, there we go. Seems like we've been here before.
Great.
Okay, so we'll see you again in February. Thanks for watching Tech Talk.
Thank you.